Long before written history began, when the earth was still young and mountains held secrets that no one dared to tell, something impossible happened. The skies opened, and for a brief moment, heaven touched the ground. People in the ancient world saw lights brighter than the sun, shapes moving above the clouds, and voices that spoke in tones no human could understand. For centuries, these events became myths, stories told around fires. But what no one knew was that they were not just stories. Something had indeed come down from the stars, leaving behind traces buried deep beneath forgotten lands. In the present day, a young historian named Arvin spent his entire life chasing legends about the sky gods. Everyone laughed at him, calling his research useless, but he knew there was something more. His belief grew stronger when he found a strange metallic tablet deep under the ruins of an unknown civilization. The writings on it were not in any known human language, yet they shimmered when touched by light. He felt an energy, almost alive, flowing through his fingers. He didn't know it yet, but that small discovery was about to unlock a truth that would shake the world. The tablet spoke of a time when heaven and earth once became one. A time when beings from beyond the stars walked among humans, sharing knowledge, power, and light. It told of an empire that rose beyond imagination, built by both humans and the visitors together. But then, something terrible happened. A betrayal, a war that tore the sky apart, and an empire that vanished without a trace. The last words on the tablet warned, "When heaven returns, earth will remember." As Arvin read these words, he felt the ground tremble. The old ruins around him began to glow faintly with blue light, like something ancient was waking up. He tried to record everything, but his equipment failed. The air itself felt heavy. For a brief moment, he thought he heard whispers, voices from a time long gone. They spoke his name. Then, the light vanished. Everything went silent, leaving Arvin with one haunting question. If the empire was gone, who had just called him? Days passed, but Arvin couldn't stop thinking about what he had experienced. Every night the same dream came to him. Two worlds colliding, cities made of crystal floating in the clouds, and people bowing before tall figures of light. He woke up sweating, his heart racing. He knew these weren't just dreams. Something was trying to communicate with him. So he decided to go back to the ruins one last time. But this time, when he reached the site, everything had changed. The ground where he had found the tablet was sealed with strange symbols, and a faint humming came from below. He dug desperately, and suddenly, the ground cracked open, revealing a chamber filled with metallic walls that looked both ancient and futuristic. In the center of the room stood a statue, or maybe a body, perfectly preserved, glowing with the same light as the tablet. Its face was calm, almost human, but the eyes were unlike anything he had ever seen. They were alive. As he stepped closer, the lights brightened and the chamber started to hum louder. He realized he might have just awakened something that had been sleeping for millions of years. The tablet in his bag started to vibrate and emit a tone that matched the sound in the room. Arvin could hardly breathe as the air turned electric and a beam of light surrounded the statue. Then a voice echoed, soft, powerful, and ancient, saying, "The time of silence ends, the bridge will open again." The light burst so bright that Arvin had to cover his eyes. When it faded, the statue was gone. Only a symbol was left on the floor, the same one carved on the metallic tablet. The earth under his feet felt alive, as if the planet itself had taken a breath. Arvin didn't understand what had just happened, but deep inside, he knew. The forgotten empire was real, and whatever had connected heaven and earth before was about to return. Arvin could not sleep that night. The image of the glowing chamber haunted his mind. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that strange figure of light and heard the voice repeating the same words, "The bridge will open again." He didn't know what it meant, but deep down he felt the world had just changed. He decided to contact a few trusted researchers, but when he tried to call them, his phone showed no signal. The entire area around the ruins had lost all communication. Even his car's engine refused to start, as if something in the air had drained its power. The next morning, he began walking toward the nearest village several miles away. On his way, he noticed unusual patterns in the soil, circular marks, like something heavy had landed or taken off. Birds didn't sing, and even the wind was silent. Everything around him felt frozen. When he finally reached the village, people were gathered outside staring at the sky. Strange cloud shapes hovered above the mountains, glowing faintly with the same blue light he had seen underground. Arvin's heart raced. He asked an old man what was happening. The old man whispered, "The gods of the sky have awakened again. We saw the signs before the great floods thousands of years ago." Arvin realized that his discovery was not local, it was global. News channels across the world started showing images of glowing patterns appearing in deserts, oceans, and ice fields. Governments were silent, scientists were confused, and religious leaders began calling it a miracle. But Arvin knew it was something else. The forgotten empire mentioned on the tablet was returning, and its presence was rewriting everything humans thought they knew about history. As he studied the tablet again, he noticed new lines appearing on it, glowing softly as if being rewritten by an invisible hand. The words were in a language he couldn't read, yet somehow he understood them in his mind. They spoke of a hidden city, a place where heaven once met earth completely. It was called Ilarion, a city built by humans and the beings of light together. The tablet said that whoever awakened the seal would be called to Ilarion to witness the rebirth of the bridge between worlds. Arvin decided he had to find that city. He packed his equipment and began a long journey guided by strange dreams and the mysterious glow of the tablet. His path led him through deserts, ancient ruins, and forgotten temples, each holding symbols of the same civilization. In every place he visited, he found signs of two worlds once united. Carvings of men shaking hands with shining figures, ancient tools made of unknown metals, and even maps of the stars that matched no known constellation. Days turned into weeks and Arvin grew weaker, but the tablet seemed to keep him alive. Every time he thought he would collapse, the tablet would glow softly, and he would feel warmth in his chest, giving him strength to go on. Finally, after endless travel, he reached a valley hidden between mountains where no map led. There he saw a massive stone gate half buried in the earth, covered in strange vines that shimmered under sunlight. On its surface was the same symbol he had seen in the underground chamber. When he touched the gate, it began to hum, and the vines burned away, revealing metallic panels beneath. The ground shook, and the air filled with energy. Slowly, the gate opened, revealing a vast corridor made of silver walls that stretched endlessly ahead. The walls glowed faintly, showing moving images, cities floating in the clouds, people walking alongside beings made of pure light, and ships flying through the skies. Arvin realized this was not just history. This was memory. The corridor was showing him what once existed. As he walked deeper, a soft voice echoed through the hall. "Welcome, Keeper of the Key." The sound came from everywhere, and nowhere at once. Arvin froze. He didn't know who was speaking, but it knew him. The voice continued, "You have awakened what was sealed. The bridge will soon rise, but the balance must be restored. Heaven and earth cannot meet again without a choice." The cue. Walls shifted, showing images of war, fire raining from the sky, cities crumbling, and beings of light fighting each other. Arvin understood now that the forgotten empire did not fall naturally. It was destroyed by the very power that once united it. He began to feel a strange pull toward the end of the corridor, where a large circular platform waited. The voice whispered, "Again, the past calls for judgment and the future waits for you." As he stepped onto the platform, the tablet in his hand disintegrated into dust and merged into the ground. The platform began to rise, carrying him upward into a tower of light that pierced the clouds. Through the brightness, he could see vast ruins of what once was, massive structures of crystal and gold stretching across the mountains. Then he saw them, figures of light moving among the ruins, slowly turning their heads toward him. Their eyes glowed, and their forms shifted like waves. One of them spoke directly into his mind. The bridge is awakening. The time to remember has come. Arvin's body trembled. He had found Ilarion, the city where heaven met earth. But what he didn't know was that his arrival had already sent a signal beyond the stars. Something ancient was returning, something far greater than he could imagine. Arvin stood frozen in the middle of the shining tower. Around him the air shimmered with energy, and the city of Ilarion stretched endlessly below. Silent, sleeping but still alive. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls of the great structures pulsed with light, like veins carrying power through the ruins. The air smelled clean, too clean, almost unreal. He whispered softly, "Is this the city of the gods?" But the voice inside his mind answered, "No, this is the city of those who once dreamed of being gods." The figures of light moved closer to him. Their shapes changed as they approached. Some looked human, some were too tall, too bright to look at directly. One of them stopped right before him. It had no face, only a smooth surface of light that rippled with energy. It said, "You have crossed the gate. You carry the mark of the bridge." The seal was broken, and now both worlds will awaken. Arvin didn't understand. He asked, "What bridge? Why me?" The being answered, "Because the blood of those who built Ilarion still flows within you. You are their echo." The word struck him hard. He had never known his true ancestry. Could it be possible that his own bloodline was linked to this forgotten empire? The being continued, "Our kind came from the skies not to rule but to guide. Together humans and we built harmony. But greed poisoned hearts, and the bridge that joined heaven and earth became a weapon. When the war began, the bridge shattered and both realms were torn apart. To stop total destruction, we sealed Ilarion beneath time itself, waiting for one who would come to restore the balance." Arvin realized the truth. He had awakened the ancient seal because of his connection to this lost heritage. But before he could ask more, the ground beneath the tower began to rumble. The sky darkened and lightning cracked through the clouds. The being of light turned sharply toward the horizon and said, "They have felt it. The others have awakened." Arvin's heart raced. "The others?" he asked. The being replied, "Not all who came from the heavens chose peace. Some refused to sleep. Now they rise again, hungry for what was once theirs." Outside the tower, parts of the city began to move. Giant metallic structures unfolded from the earth like machines coming alive after endless sleep. The light around them flickered red instead of blue. The peaceful hum of Ilarion turned into a deep roar, and the air vibrated with power. Arvin felt fear creeping into his chest. He shouted, "What's happening?" The being of light said, "The fallen ones are returning. They were banished when the bridge was destroyed, but your awakening has given them the signal. They seek to control the bridge once more." Arvin knew he had to act fast, but he didn't know how. The voice guided him toward the center of the tower, where a glowing sphere floated above a stone pedestal. The being said, "This is the heart of Ilarion. It connects both worlds. You must protect it until the bridge stabilizes." Arvin placed his hand on the sphere, and instantly visions filled his mind. Worlds beyond the stars, beings of light and shadow, and the creation of the first empire. He saw how humans were once given the gift of knowledge, but greed turned wisdom into destruction. The final image showed the bridge collapsing, dividing heaven and earth forever. When the vision ended, he was gasping for air. Suddenly, the tower shook violently. From the outer edges of the city, black shapes began to rise, dark mist-like creatures with glowing red eyes. They moved quickly, spreading like a storm. The light beings formed a shield around the tower, but the darkness pushed closer. One of the beings told Arvin, "You must remember who you are. The key to restoring the balance lies within your blood." Arvin shouted, "I don't understand." But before he could say more, a burst of energy threw him backward. The floor cracked open and he fell through a glowing tunnel of light. He landed in a chamber far below the city, surrounded by ancient machines that hummed quietly. His body ached, but when he stood up, he noticed a faint mark glowing on his arm, the same symbol from the tablet. He finally understood. He wasn't just chosen by chance. He was connected to the creators of Ilarion. The light in his arm pulsed in rhythm with the machines, as if responding to him. He touched one of the panels and the entire room came alive. Holograms appeared, showing maps of energy lines spreading across Earth, linking ancient temples, pyramids, and mountains. Ilarion wasn't just a city. It was the core of a global network that once united the planet with the heavens. But one thing terrified him. The map also showed red zones, spreading fast, where the fallen ones had already awakened. Their corruption was reaching the surface of Earth. The ancient war was beginning again. The voice of the being echoed faintly through the chamber. The bridge is rising. Choose your path, Arvin. If you restore it, both worlds may unite, or fall together forever. Arvin stood silently, feeling the weight of destiny pressing down on him. He looked up toward the ceiling of light above and whispered, "Then I must finish what they started." The chamber answered with a deep hum, as if the city itself agreed. Far above, the skies of Earth began to tear with streaks of light, as heaven and Earth slowly started to meet once again. Arvin could feel the whole world changing. The ground trembled beneath his feet as Ilarian's heart pulsed faster, sending streams of blue light shooting into the sky. All across the planet, the same energy erupted. Ancient temples glowed again, mountains cracked open, and oceans began to shimmer with power buried for millions of years. The bridge between heaven and Earth was awakening, and time itself seemed to bend around it. But Arvin knew the danger was just beginning. The fallen ones had already broken through the first seals, and their darkness was spreading across both worlds. He ran through the shining corridors, searching for a way to reach the surface. The air grew hotter, the lights flickered, and the voices of the light beings echoed faintly around him. "Arvin, the balance must be kept. If the heart falls, both worlds will burn." He shouted back, "Tell me how to stop them." But the only answer he received was silence, followed by a deep rumble that shook the entire city. From above, cracks of red energy shot through the ceiling. He could hear the dark creatures screaming, a sound that didn't belong to anything living. Finally, he reached a high platform overlooking the whole of Ilarion. The city was no longer silent. Half of it glowed with soft blue light, peaceful and calm, while the other half burned with red fire. The two energies were colliding violently, tearing the city apart. In the center stood a massive gateway, the bridge, and half open, half sealed. Through it, Arvin could see flashes of another world, skies of gold, towers of light, and shadows crawling along the horizon. He realized the bridge was unstable. If it opened completely now, both worlds could destroy each other. Then he heard a familiar voice behind him. It was not the voice of light, but something deeper, colder. "You have done well, Arvin." He turned and saw a figure step out from the red mist, tall, cloaked, and glowing with dark fire. Its face was hidden, but its voice carried authority. "You awakened the bridge. You opened the path that even the stars forgot." Arvin took a step back. "Who are you?" he demanded. The being smiled, its eyes burning crimson. "I am what your kind once called the Keeper of Shadows. When heaven betrayed its own, I remained. Now I will finish what they could not." Arvin clenched his fists. "You caused the fall of Ilarion?" The being nodded slowly. "Yes, because they wanted to chain power. I wanted to free it. The bridge belongs to no god, no man. It belongs to those strong enough to control it. And now it shall be mine." The dark energy around the figure flared, spreading across the platform. Arvin felt the pressure crush his chest, but the glowing mark on his arm began to fight back, shining brighter with blue light. The being hissed, "Ah, the bloodline of the builders still resists." Without warning, the heart of Ilarion appeared as a floating sphere between them, glowing violently. The dark energy tried to pull it, but the light from Arvin's mark resisted. The two powers collided, shaking the entire city. Arvin shouted, "This bridge was made to unite, not to destroy." The dark figure laughed. "Unity is a lie. Power is truth." The energy blast threw them both backward, and the gateway began to tear open wider. Through the cracks, blinding light poured in, and shapes of light beings appeared, fighting to hold the seal. Arvin realized he had only one choice left. The energy in his body was connected to the heart. If he merged with it, he could stabilize the bridge, but it would cost his life. He looked up at the chaos, the fighting, the falling towers, and whispered to himself, "Maybe this was why I was chosen." As he placed his hand on the heart, the mark on his arm spread across his body like flowing fire. His eyes glowed bright blue, and his voice echoed through the city. "Let heaven and earth remember their promise." A massive wave of energy burst from the tower, spreading through Ilarion and far beyond. The dark creatures screamed as the light consumed them. The red fire faded, replaced by golden light that healed the broken walls and silenced the storm. The dark figure tried to resist, but its power dissolved, leaving behind only a whisper. "This is not the end. Then it was gone. The bridge glowed brighter than ever before, and calm, balanced, and beautiful. Through it, Arvin saw two worlds finally touching once more. Cities of light appeared above the clouds, and Earth itself began to bloom with new life. But as the light grew stronger, his body began to fade. The voice of